on my way to pick my babies up. Yes, God. Yes, God. Yes, God. Yes, God. Can y'all hear me all right? Turn this off. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Yes, God. I want to make sure. Hey. So I'm going to take that as you can hear me if you're waving at me. Because I always have to check. Because sometimes Instagram be trying it, y'all. Instagram will really try it. And have me really get into something. And then people be like, we can't hear you. And I'm like, wow, okay. Excuse me. Can anybody hear me? I don't know if you can hear me or not. Thank you. Thank you. You can hear me? Okay, awesome. Awesome, 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 awesome. Yes, God. Wonderful. Okay, cool. I was hoping, I was actually hoping to do this live at home. And I got caught up making products and doing other things for the business. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to do it on my way to my next destination. So, yes, God. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was abandonment issues, because I posted about it earlier, and I have had my share of experiences dealing with abandonment issues, observing how they play themselves out in my life, observing how they play themselves out in my relationships, and I think first and foremost, most importantly, observing how they play themselves out in my mind, because abandonment issues really live in the mind, and that's part of the place that we create from. So I'm just going to take a brief moment to introduce myself. My name is Megan. I am the CEO of Yes God Wellness, a holistic health company dedicated to the mind, body, and spirit connection through the ancient technique of vaginal steaming, which helps to release not only, yes, God, we're going to get into it, not only to release physical imbalances, but also emotional and energetic imbalances. So I'm really looking forward to this Friday, because it's the new moon and it's time to really look at where we are and evaluate where we are, and then create and decide where we want to be and create a new narrative about where we want to be and create that. So I'm super excited about this Friday with the new moon, because I am going to do a new moon steam. I'm going to allow myself just space and time to journal and write and really just pour into myself and nurture the seeds that I'm planting on that day. So I wanted to talk about abandonment issues today because, like I said, I have seen them play themselves out in my life. I see them play themselves out in the lives of my clients. And it's just, it's just a really prevalent thing. And I think that it's a very common thing. I think that most human beings have some type of issue around abandonment, whether it's a small thing or whether it's a really a large thing that they dealt with in childhood, or they've had a parent who they perceived abandoned them, or a close friend, or a lover, or they have betrayal. I think it's just very common. I definitely see it all over the place. The blend that I would recommend for this particular issue would be the Victorious blend, because the Victorious blend is specifically designed to release blockages. And meditating on that while you're steaming with the Victorious blend is amazing. And so I want to give some context to the abandonment issue because if anyone, I don't know, you may or may not have seen, but I have been talking about this book, The 4 Agreements, by Don Miguel Ruiz. And this book is absolutely phenomenal. And, I think a lot of people know what the 4 agreements are. Be impeccable with your word, don't make assumptions, don't take things personally, and always do your best. Yes, God, you should definitely get it, and you should definitely use code August 19 to take your 15% off, because that code is going to be ending soon. So the book goes way deeper than that. Those are the 4 kind of like, that's a real summarized version. But I wanted to kind of just talk a little bit about the context of the book, because it's also a context and framework that I found myself, you're so welcome, that I found myself working through without that framework. So, the thing about spirituality and, finding different things that you resonate with in spirituality, whether they be, motivational speakers, spiritual teachers, spiritual coaches, your pastor, your teacher, your friend, whoever is that you find to be very instrumental and influential on your spiritual journey, ultimately, if they are truly aligned with the divine and the creative source, the bottom line is that we have choices, okay? And we have choices about our suffering. And heaven and hell are 2 flip sides of the same coin, and they both live in our minds, okay? And I know that is not what a lot of us have learned in terms of religion, in terms of what heaven is, what hell is, what the concept is, what the context is. Your mental state and the way that you perceive and the way that you approach the things and the experiences that happen to you in your life, they either create suffering or they create joy, okay? Even if those things are on a small level, So like, for example, the fact that I am, driving right now, if I were to have someone come and try to cut me off, I could perceive that with compassion and be like, wow, they must really be hurting right now. They must really be in a rush. They must, I would be compassionate, or I could choose to take it personally and be like, what the fuck, this motherfucker, and the whole road rage bit, okay? And so I say that to say that our suffering is really a figment of our mind, because a lot of times we're basing how we're perceiving reality and how we're perceiving experience based on our past traumas, okay? And based on our past abandonment, based on our past betrayals. And especially when you're talking about abandonment that began in childhood, that began with a parent not being there, not being the type of parent that we needed, not being emotionally available, that creates an agreement within us. So the book, The 4 Agreements, really talks about the fact that all human beings, for the most part, have made tons of agreements with themselves, okay? They've made agreements such as, men ain't shit, such as, if no pain, no gain, such as anything, any belief that you have about the way that things are or the way the world works really is an agreement that you have created with yourself. And whatever you have agreed upon, now you view the world through that filter, and you actually become the judge and the victim based on that agreement. So, for example, if I have the agreement that, anytime I eat sugar, or anytime I have a carb, or anytime I enjoy myself with food, it's going to make me fat, okay? If that's the agreement that I've made in my mind. So, because I have made that agreement, anytime that I indulge and have one of those foods, now I feel guilty about it, because I've set that up as the standard of measure. I've set that to be the law. I've set that to be the agreement. So my actions and my experiences are measured against those agreements. So really the point of the book was to really take the time to examine the agreements that you've made with yourself about love, about abandonment, about people's behavior, about, any and everything, and only adopt those 4 agreements. Now, the thing too that takes some learning and takes some practice is to not take things personally. So, wherever the trauma stemmed from, whenever we were initially abandoned, or the point where we perceived abandonment and it left a mark on us and we made an agreement with that abandonment, that is what is holding us to continue to experience the abandonment, okay? Because we have created something within us that has a deep and true belief that this is the way things happen. As soon as I get close to somebody, they leave. As soon as I am vulnerable with someone, they leave. We have to be mindful that there is a very fine line between your insecurities and your intuition, okay? And this is something that I came to the revelation about recently because I was observing myself in relationship to another person. And I was observing myself creating from my insecurities and calling it my intuition, okay? And this is why stillness practices and meditation practices and steaming practices and really anything that gives you the opportunity to sit still with yourself are so important, because we have to be able to tune into which voice it is, because insecurity often sounds like intuition. It sounds like that warning. It sounds like that, oh my God, as soon as they do that, you know what that means. As soon as they say that, you know what that means. As soon as they, have this, you know what this means. So being very, very mindful of the insecurity and the intuition, okay? Insecurities like to argue. They like to convince. They like to repeat and go over and over and over and have proof. They like to, see, that's what that means. See, I told you. See, I knew it. See. Your intuition is not going to do that. Your intuition is much more still. You can only access your intuition when you're in a still and balanced place. If you're in a space of anxiety or a place of depression or a place of sadness or a place of nervousness, you're not really available for your intuition to come through and be able to guide you, because you have already clung so tightly to whatever agreements that you've made, which are creating your anxiety and your depression, that you can't hear anything else. Everything else is blocked. I may feel you on this. Due to the absence of my father protecting himself from my relationship with men. Exactly. And I had to deal with that too. And with my thing with my father, it was like I convinced myself for years and years that I was over it, that it wasn't bothering me, that it had no bearing on what was happening in my life at all. It felt like something that was so long ago and something that was so inaccessible to me. I didn't even feel sad about it, and that's what you call extreme suppression. And yes, that's the same thing. I had to really get honest and vulnerable with myself about my connections in relationship, especially with men, and really be honest about the fact that because I had made this agreement with myself as a young girl that basically people are not going to do what they say they're going to do, and people can change at any moment and not be consistent and not be dependable, that kind of created a subconscious expectation. Because your agreements with yourself turn into expectations. So if I agree that people can't be trusted, and I'm not safe, and it doesn't make any sense, and I got to do it all on my own anyways, now what I've done is I've created that expectation. And you know what the unfortunate part about that is that I'm actually going to magnetize people that confirm that for me. I'm going to magnetize people who confirm that I'm not safe, who confirm that it doesn't make any sense to be vulnerable, to confirm that I can't depend on anyone but myself. And the reason why I'm magnetizing and attracting them to me is because I first believe that. I first have agreed to that. And we cannot magnetize anything to us other than what we are. So with that being said, when we're talking about abandonment issues, what it really means is that we have abandoned our own selves. We have abandoned our own intuition. We have abandoned our own self-awareness. We have abandoned our own perspective in lieu of painful agreements from the past. So how does that show up for people? How does abandonment, how do we abandon ourselves? Well, we abandon ourselves when we don't do what we say we're going to do, when we make commitments to ourselves and we don't follow through. We abandon ourselves when we say we're going to go to the gym every other day and we don't go. We abandon ourselves when we say that we're going to do, a fast and we don't stick to it. We abandon ourselves in several different ways. And this is why it's so important to cultivate the relationship with yourself and to truly love yourself and to truly spend time with yourself before you enter into relationship with another person, especially on a romantic level, because the only thing that any human being can do in any relationship is give what they have. So if you only have insecurity and trust issues and blame and shame and guilt and condescending energy, and you look down on other people and you feel like, you're better than other people, then what you're actually projecting is insecurity. So you're going to attract insecure people to you. Because truly secure and confident people are compassionate. And they don't look down on other people for the things that they do and say. So if you find yourself or anyone else doing that, what they're actually telling you and showing you, most times unconsciously about themselves, is that they are not feeling worthy, they're not feeling confident, and they're not feeling safe within themselves, in the relationship with themselves. So therefore they can do nothing else but give you the same. And a lot of times, again, that principle of not taking things personally. We take things personally and we feel rejected and we feel insulted and we feel like all of these, feelings, when in reality, we shouldn't be taking anything anyone does personally, because the only thing that people are doing is acting out with other human beings how they actually feel about themselves. That's the only thing. We're all doing it. We are all doing that. Whether we realize it or not, it's what we're doing. My yes God moment was realizing not to expect people to exude the same and or respectful mannerisms like myself, and to just take their actions and responses, not to take their answers and responses personally. Exactly. Because they're not responding to you. Nobody's responding to you. And you're not responding to anyone else either. You're responding to yourself. You're only ever responding to yourself. And if people could really wrap their minds around that, and really sit with that and evaluate that, they might change their actions drastically. Because our actions are basically like a tattletale. Our actions and our words are tattletelling on how we feel about ourselves. If we're talking shit about people and, oh my God, he's so stupid, she's so stupid, she's a fucking idiot, what you're really saying on a deeper level is, oh my God, I'm so fucking stupid, I'm a fucking idiot. We gotta understand this. This is how the universe is working. And then people say, oh, well, the reason why I say that, the reason why I expect it is because it always happens to me. You wonder why. Why does the same situation always keep happening to you? Because you continue to focus on the past situations where it happened to you, and you have not broken that agreement that is your permanent expectation of similar situations. That's why. Because you don't expect miracles. You don't expect anything different. You expect the same old shit. And because you expect the same old shit, you get it. Yes, God. And it's nothing personal. It is nothing personal when people are cruel to us. It's nothing personal when people distance themselves from us. It's nothing personal when people, even betray us. Because all that they're showing is that they don't have the capacity to be kind to themselves. that they don't have the capacity to be loyal to themselves, that they don't have the capacity to be there for themselves. And when we project our abandonment issue on other people, we're tattletelling on ourselves that we haven't truly forgiven. We haven't forgiven our parents. We haven't forgiven ourselves. We haven't forgiven everyone. And really, that's what's required, because if we think about the essence of God and divine energy and divine source, God is love. God is love. God is nothing other than love. So anything that is not love is not of God. It's not. Judgment is not of God. Guilt is not of God. Shame is not of God. Resentment is not of God. Holding grudges is not of God. These things are not of God. Taking things personally, not of God. Could you imagine if God took our behavior personally? Are you fucking kidding me right now? We wouldn't even be here. And this is what I believe spirituality is. Spirituality is realizing how godly you can become. And everyone's in a different place. Everyone has had a different experience. Everyone has had a different upbringing. Everyone lives in a different environment. Everyone has had different things happen to them. Everyone has had different trauma. This is why it's so important to be compassionate. We have to be compassionate with other people. And if we lack compassion with other people, that means that we lack compassion with ourselves. Everything is always mirroring what's going on internally inside of us. So I say all that to say abandonment issues really are indicating that we have to work on stopping the cycle of abandoning ourselves. Abandoning ourselves for social media. Abandoning ourselves for television. Abandoning ourselves for liquor. Abandoning ourselves for cannabis. Abandoning ourselves. Whatever we are abandoning, our nature of really loving and being able to be still and at peace and at joy with ourselves. Because if we can sit still and we're not at peace and joy with ourselves, we need to fucking do something until we can be. Because that is a sign that, that's a sign that we are not in the space that we need to be. And then so what do? Is we want to distract ourselves. We want to distract ourselves with TV. We want to distract ourselves with food and everything else. Sorry, y'all. I'm pulling up to pick my babies up at the carpool lane. I got to jump off. I love y'all so much. Thank you for spending time. Don't forget code August 19 at checkout. New moon is Friday. Get your orders in so you can steam with me on Friday, because I'm definitely doing a live steam. Yes, God. I'll talk to y'all soon.